Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly series of shirim on the Zohar HaKadosh, and we are beginning Sefer Vayikra. Torah's Kohanim, the book of Avodah Lamata Me'asar Tvachim, the book that is all about Dira B'Tachtonim, about the Mishkan, about the Beis HaMikdash, about the fact that ultimately when HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks out into reality, so to speak, and desires reality, so to speak, the ultimate point at which that desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is fulfilled is specifically in the Dira B'Tachtonim. And this is ultimately what we are always talking about in the Zohar HaKadosh. The book of the Zohar HaKadosh is the book of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but it's the book of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that holds the light of Moshe Rabbeinu within it. Moshe Rabbeinu represents Yichud Ilah. Moshe Rabbeinu represents the celestial realms where everything is revealed, Ish HaElokim. But at the very same point, the radical secret of Moshe is that Moshe understands deeply the need to be drawn down into the vessels of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and that all that which was going to be revealed from within the general unity of Moshe's Torah was contained within the Torah of Rabbi Akiva and the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the secret of Torah Sheba'al Peh. And ultimately, the deepest secret of Torah's Moshe is that it needs to be drawn down into the Dir B'Tachtonim, into the vessels of Bina, through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And that's going to be the fulfillment of the name. Moshe Rabbeinu represents the upper realms of the Yud and the K. It represents the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Vav and the K, which are the lower levels, represent the territory of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Orus and the Kalim. And ultimately, the fullness of the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which comes about by way of a korban, which is taking this world down here and elevating it all the way back, is going to be the fulfillment of the name, Yud K Vav K, Chachma Bina Zer Anpin and Malchus, a full establishment of Hashem's presence. But we know that that's not enough. We know that the purpose of Moshe Rabbeinu coming down into the vessels of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is not so that there can be an equality between Moshe and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but rather that all of the lower realms, which are the realms of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the separation, the Vav and the Hey, and this worldliness, and all of the concealment, and all of the Prate Pratim, the job is to draw Moshe Rabbeinu down there so that Moshe Rabbeinu can take it and go all the way back up into the innermost territory of Chachma itself to reveal that Pnimius Chachma, Pnimius Atik. That when Moshe Rabbeinu descends down from Chachma and he descends into the territory of concealment and Bina, the job is not just for there to be a yichud between Chachma and Bina, but rather that the yichud between Chachma and Bina should reveal the inner interiority of Chachma, that it has the ability to contain within itself Bina as well, which simply means that Chachma is rooted in a place far higher than it, which is the secret of Keser, which is the secret of Reshad Lo Asyada, which is the secret of the small Aleph of Vayikra, which is the secret of the Pele Elyon that contains above and below in one fell swoop, and it reveals how it's specifically by way of the Avoida down here that we're going to reveal the greatness of the Avoida up there. So we're going to be looking at different places in the Zohar that are going to speak out this inyan, and they're all in the first few pages. As we're entering into a new sefer, we're going to try and illuminate the themes, which are always the same, drawing Chachma into Bina so that Bina can then clarify itself and go all the way back up to Chachma, but not only stopping at Chachma, going into the inner interiority of Chachma and uncovering the roots of Keser there and going up to the Pnimius of Keser, which is the Pnimius of Atik, which is the secret of Reshad Lo Asyada, which is the Aleph Zeira, which is the secret of Ein Shem Yesh B'Olam Klal, which is the secret of Kol HaRefuos Ba'olam, which are Tali and Amuna, that tiny Nukuda Daka of the Aleph, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu cries out to us with this Aleph, it appears as small because we have to come to the realization that there is no Aleph that is too small. Each and every iteration of the light from HaKadosh Baruch Hu contains everything. And this is going to be the secret of what we're going to be seeing, how all of these differentiated iterations of separation down here, when we understand the true secret of how emergence and differentiation take shape through original unity, we come to find that each and every particular expression is a fractalized expression of the original whole, which goes to show the deep unity and inherent infinitude within the whole itself, which is the secret of the Tosefes Kishut. So what we're going to be seeing in the Zohar HaKadosh is perpetually, first we're going to see this awareness that we know that we have the work to do down here, which is schlepping Bina into Zer Anpin, and then Zer Anpin has the ability of being mitchaber with Malchus, and then we create a shlemus. That's typically what we understand, that to do the work down here, which is the 6 days of the week, which are the 6 midos and Malchus, so that means that we draw from the womb of Bina, and we draw the moichin of Bina down. But then, in addition to drawing the moichin from Bina down into Zer Anpin and Malchus, which are the lower letters of Vav Hey, and the Maisa is the Ikar to be Mashlim L'Shem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what the Zohar Kadosh is going to return to is that when we can understand truly how to draw Moichin from Bina into Zer Anpin and to be Mitchaber with Malchus, meaning when we understand what to do with the Hirhur Tshuva and to draw it down into our Midos and to accomplish some action that is positive in this world, it's not just that, oh, now I did a good action, but that good action goes all the way back up into the inner recesses of Bina, which is rooted in Chachma, which is rooted in Kesser, and it brings us back to Pnimius Chachma, Pnimius Atik, which reveals that it's specifically through the descent of Chachma into the opposite of Chachma that Chachma is going to come to reveal its true potency. So the beginning of the Zohar HaKadosh and Parshas Vayikrah opens up with this call to remind us never to forget the Chachma that is hidden within everything, that secret Pella, that wondrous Chachma that reveals how all descent is for the sake of the ascent. Rabbi Eliezer Pasach, Sha'alacha ois me'im Hashem elikecha ha'emek she'ela o hagava lamala. Pasuk in Yeshaya says that ask for a sign from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to decide whether you should go upwards or whether you should go down into the valley of questions. So the Zohar HaKadosh is going to open us up on an understanding of what this is, but the Heilige Kamarna says at the beginning of his commentary on the Zohar, on this pasuk that is being quoted from Yeshaya, Sha'alacha os, so the Kamarna says as follows. It's a fundamental teaching that we have to bear in mind throughout every moment of our lives. But the Kamarna Rebbe says as follows: Sha'alacha ois me'im Hashem, ask for a letter. Instead of reading it as a sign, the Kamarna says ask for a letter, referencing that Aleph Ze'ira, that tiny letter. Ki hayamaisa b'tzadek sheshaklu b'chelyoy zechiyosav. That there was a tzaddik who, when he was sick, they measured in Beis Din Shalmala all of his zchuyos, all of his tefillah and all of his Torah. V'heviu es tfiloisav l'fnei haBeis Din. And he brought all of his riboy tfilos and all of the words of tefillah that he said in his life in front of the Beis Din. Uba malach v'hifriach es hakol v'lo nishar ela us achas hey shahaya me'ira. And all that remained after the Malach came and went through all of the letters of his tefillah throughout his life to determine what was worthy of being brought in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu and what was unworthy, all that remained was a singular letter of the Os Hey that shined at a moment in his tefillah. B'zeh sha'alacha ois, and that was enough. That was enough, and this is what the pasuk means. Sha'alacha os, ask from HaKadosh Baruch Hu a letter. Sheyeh me'im Hashem, that one letter should come from Hashem Elokecha. V'yeh be'emes bo'im mekalei v'yatzilas hakol. All we need is one singular letter of his kashrus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Aleph Ze'ira, and that's going to be enough for us to be makasher everything and be machaber everything together. So on this pasuk, Rabbi Elazar says as follows. He says, "Estaklana b'darin kadmin v'darin basrin." I looked at the previous generations and I looked at the later generations. Ma ben darin kadmin ledarin basrin, and what is the difference between the earlier generations and the lower generations? Darin kadmin have yadin umistalkin b'chachma se'ilah v'yadin letzarfa asvand is yahivu leila Moshe b'Sinai. That the original generations understood the secret of chachma ilah, and they knew it had to be mitzaref the letters together. And it was drawing from the letters that were given to Moshe at Har Sinai. And even those who were found guilty and stuck in transgression still had the ability to uncover within the letters the secret of the Chachma. Because ultimately each and every letter, whether they're big letters or whether they're small letters, are each fundamentally rooted in the secret of Chachma, of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave over his Chachma to Moshe Rabbeinu, and each of them wear the Chaya as their crown, the Chaya because they represent the Moichan of Chachma. So we see that in the previous generations, everybody knew about Chachma. Everybody knew that even when you descend down into the big letters, which are Bina, or the smaller letters, which are going to be Zer Anpin and Malchus, nevertheless, everything was about coming back to a place of Chachma, because they understood that the letters and all of the particularity was given by who? By Moshe Rabbeinu Raya Hamna, which is the secret of the Yesod Abba, which is the secret of Chachma. So back then, it was of such a lofty nature that all separation was fundamentally included within Chachma, within the original Chachma. V'kulya chayven havim etatre beho uparchen goy avira denachta migoy avira ilah dokek delayada. And all of these crowns and the crowns of the Chaya of Chachma that was revealed within all of these letters, they would go and they would bring everything, they bring the letters up through the air back to the place that the air comes from, which is the transcendent air, and that very thin line of air that comes about from that place that is unknown. Because back then it was Pnimius Chachma, Pnimius Atik, it was revealed for all to see that no matter what letters, the big letters of Bina, the small letters of Zer Anpin and Malchus, in the end of the day, it's ultimately to go back up into the Avira, Zachya of the Reshad Lo Asyada, to be mamtik everything in Chachma. The Salkin V'nachten Asvin Ravavin V'asvin Dekikin, and what would come back down are new letters, so more particularity would come out from Chachma. Asvin Ravavin Nachten Megoy Hechala Ilat Mir Dekula, the big letters represented the Bina that came from the Chachma, V'asyan Dekikin Have Nachten Megoy Hechala Achretata, and the lower and thinned out letters would go down to another place from Chachma, which would be from the Zer Anpin or the Malchus of Chachma. V'ilin et Masri Leila Moshe B'Sinai, and all of them were given over to Moshe in Sinai, and that's what was known in the original generations. There was the Chachma of Moshe that was clear, V'chibura de Asman De'inan Mitchabrim B'Timiru, and the combination and the unification of all of these letters, which hold within themselves the secret of Olamos, Neshamos, and Elokus, when they're unified together, B'chol Ois Va'ois, we come to find the deepest revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, K'goyin Ois Aleph, like the Ois Aleph, which is the secret of the Yechida, which is the secret of Keser Elyon, which reveals the unity between Chachma and Bina, Mitchabrim Ima B'Timiru Trein Achrinan. When we come to that place of the unity between Chachma and Bina and understand how all differentiation is ultimately rooted in the Chachma Ilah, so we come to understand how Aleph, which is the pintala point where everything is contained, and that secret of the Yechida, it's one letter, it's the Os of the Yechida, it's the Os of Ratzon HaElyon, and the end of the day, it contains other elements within itself in the secret of the Pella Elyon, that in truth, the Aleph is the Osios of Pella. And all of this was given over to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Kulin Tamir and Goy Chavraya Zachon Inun. Nevertheless, these secrets are hidden. These secrets are hidden with the Chavraya. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is opening up. Rabbi Elazar is saying that ultimately, what's the difference between the previous generations and the lower generations? The previous generations understood the tachlis was to draw all separation back to the secret of Chachma, to take all of the osios, the big ones and the small ones, Bina and Zer Anpin, back up to a Chorish and Chachma. The lower generation sometimes forget about this because the lower generation sees the fact that the midos come from Bina, and we come to assume that the Iker is Bina, and we come to find that by drawing everything back up to Bina, which we're going to see in a moment, that's enough. But ultimately, the true secret is that it's never enough to go back into Bina. Zer Anpin comes from Bina, it has to go back into Bina, but ultimately the purpose of going into Bina is for Bina to reveal itself to simply be the externalization of Chachma, which enables us to go back into Chachma, and then when we find ourselves in Chachma with the newfound kind of emergence of particularity. So what happens is that emergent particularity and changing nature that has now been schlepped into the unchanging space of Chachma kind of reinvigorate Chachma in and of its interiority, and it awakens the potency to ascend into the interiority of Chachma, which becomes the interiority of Keser, which gives us the ability to hold both the Pratim and the Klalim at once. So we see that the Tachlis is to remember Chachma. Zak the Heilige Zohar Kadosh on Daf Gimel Amud Beis. Chazi, come and see. Biyuma de itkan mishkana letata bahahu yoima itatkam mishkana achra le'ela ima. So here we have a familiar pattern that we know the work down here is important. And the work down here, the Mishkan is concealment. The Mishkan is Vav and Hey of this world. The Mishkan are coverings, then Simtsumim that reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But we know that when we're mitzamsim ourselves down here, and when we do the work down here, we awaken the work above. Like we see in Kegavna, that just as there is work above, so too there's going to be work below. Just as there's a unification above, so too there's going to be a unification below. But we're still operating in the framework where we're seeing this in the typical pattern, that when I awaken the Vav and the Hey down here, and I engaged in the Maisa, which is the Iker, so I return back to the place above, which is the place of Bina. That's going to the Mishkan above. So we're not yet at the point where it's fundamentally clear that it's for the sake of going back into Bina and then going back into Chachma. So here we're still dealing with the fact that I pick up the Mishkan down here, which is Malchus, and what that does is it awakens the Mishka above, which is going to be Bina. Dichsev, like the pasuk says, Hukam ha-Mishkan stam, v'hahu yuma chedvasa de kutshabirichu have kivan de itkam mishkana maksiv v'lo yuchal moishe lavoy el oyam moed. So we see the pasuk says that there was joy in the creation of the Mishkan down here, and there was joy above in the entrance of the Mishkan that was established above. So Malchus is built down here, and it awakens Bina above. V'lo yachol Moshe lavo el ohel moed. But Hakadosh Baruch Hu looks and he sees, okay, Moshe Rabbeinu still can't go into the ohel moed because it's still representative of a place of Bina, and Moshe Rabbeinu represents Chachma. And so Kad Chama Kud Sheberichu Kach. When Hakadosh Baruch Hu saw that Moshe Rabbeinu, who represents Chachma, couldn't enter into the Mishkan, which represents the unity of Malchus and Bina, Uma al Yada de Moshe Itkim, and all the more so, says Hakadosh Baruch Hu Kavyachol, the Mishkan itself was created by Moshe and it was elevated by Moshe. V'ihu lebar, and he stuck outside. Miyad Vayikrah el Moshe. Immediately, Hakadosh Baruch Hu hinted and intimated to Moshe that he could come towards him. And that secret of the Aleph, that Aleph Zeira, that hidden light of Chachma, the Zehiru Ilah, and the secret of the Pele Elyon that rests within Bina itself. Amr le Moshe Chanukah de Besa b'may have besudasa Adam ki yakrev mikem korban laHashem. And so finally Moshe Rabbeinu enters in, and there's the Chanukah Sabayis. And what is the Suda of the Chanukah Sabayis going to be? It's going to be the unity of above and below. Adam down here, ki yakrev mimchem korban laHashem. And when it elevates itself back up to the place of Bina. So again, we have the same framework that there's Malchus that is set up down here. It awakens by way of Avodah L'Tzorach Kavoa, the rectifications above in the secret of Bina. And Moshe Rabbeinu, who represents Chachma, doesn't want to enter into Bina because Bina is in separation from Chachma until HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals that no, buried within Bina is the inner interiority of Chachma, which is going to be the inner interiority of Keser as well. And look at the Zohar Chai from the Kamarna for all of this. This is what the pasuk says: "Ba'asi lagani achoisi kala." That I have arrived in my garden, which is the Dir B'Tachtainim, which is Malchus, Achoisi Kala, and there's going to be unification on the level of Yonasi Tamasi, that it's going to be awoken above as well. That's going to be the unity between below and above. But we're still operating in the place where Malchus is just going up to Bina. Davar Acher Ba'asi Lagani. Another way of understanding the secret of Ba'asi Lagani, Da Gan Eden de La'ela. I have arrived in my garden, I have arrived in Gan Eden de La'ela, Achoisi Kala. And what is Achoisi Kala? So there's Bina, which is Gan Eden de La'ela, and Achoisi Kala. And the unification of the Kala down here is going to be Knesset Yisrael. The Behahu Yuma is Daveg Zivugin Bakala. That just, again, we're reiterating what is happening on the binyan of the Mishkan, that Malchus is fulfilled. Malchus has the ability to be Mityachid and Mitchaber. And where is it able to be Mitchaber? It's able to be Mitchaber back into the place of Gan Eden, which is Bina. So we're still operating in the unity between all of the particularity and Bina, but we have not yet seen that light of Chachma Se'ilah, which we saw in the beginning of the Zohar, is relegated to the previous generations. Behahu Yuma is Davig Zivugin Bekula. Is Davigu Zivugin Bahu Gan Eden begin the Isbarchu Kula Meishikya Denachla. And the reason that all of these zivugim and joinings and unifications were taking place in the place of Bina by the Kala is because it's being drawn down from the place of Gan Eden, which is the place where the Nachal comes out from, and that Nachal is the place of the Yesod de Bina, and that's where all of the awakenings come from. Again, there's Kashu Kol Chad B'Chavira. So there's unity between Malchus and Bina. The particularity is revealed to be part and parcel of the unity, but it is not yet revealed to be the thing that brings about a deeper expression of the unity. Moirium Besami Achalti Ariam Devashi Shasisieni Im Chalavi Kulon Eskashrin the Israun Mevoya Denachla. We see when there's unification of Malchus up into Bina with the Bas and the Malch and the Ima. So what's going to happen is there's going to be unification across, and all separation is going to be unified, and all of the typical breakdowns and binary oppositions of eating and drinking are going to be unified. So Adkan, we have, again, the awakening of what the Mishkan represents is awakening from below in the place of Malchus, which brings about awakening above in a place of Bina, but it has not yet schlepped the light of Chachma and Keser into the situation. Now, the Zohar Kadosh that is discussing the nature of eating above in a place of Yichud. So now the Zohar is going to darshan a different pasuk, which is going to bring us into the Ikar Drash as we go weiter. Achlu reim shasu v'shichru doidim. The beloved reim will eat together, and the doidim who love each other are going to drink together. So we see that food is contained within the relationship of reyin, and drinking is going to be contained within the relationship of doidim. So let's see. Kol inan delatata v'kulan anfin kula isbarchu ve'itzanu kad ilin isbarchu la'ela. All of the rectifications below in the territory of Malchus in our lower experience are all rooted in the unifications that are taking place in the place of Bina. Kach ilin isparchu le'ela b'ma misparchin, and how is that blessing going to be drawn down? Umisbas ben kula berecha de korbana. The secret meal is going to be the reach of the korban, schlepping Malchus back up to Bina. Ta'chazi, come and see. B'shaisa the nachtas Knesset Yisrael la'ashara diura ba'ara. When it came time for Knesset Yisrael to stabilize for themselves a place in this world, the Mishkan, a place that we can relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a place that we can have an Ohel Moed, Kud Shebrichu, Amerle, Lahaikra, begin de Ishkachachu, Birchen, V'chedva, B'kula Almin, V'itbasmat hi lenafka mina barchen de l'kula. In that moment, this pasuk is used to reveal the secret that once we create a dwelling place for HaKadosh Baruch Hu down here below in the realm of Malchus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to send bracha down from the place of Bina. The Kar'ilin Shis is barchen kedein kula almin is barchen kechada letata umisparchen le'ela. That when all of these 6 levels down here in the Midos, in the territory of Bina, in the territory of Zer Anpin and Malchus, when that's Metukan down here, we're going to find that there's going to be an awakening of blessing from below. Again, still within the relationship between Malchus and Bina. The Yisrael is Baruchu Mikula. And Nishmas Yisrael is going to draw down blessing more than anybody else. Davar acher basi l'gani achoisi kala. Another way of understanding this pasuk: I have come to my garden, my bride, my beloved. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, Rabbi Yitzchak, the Shorish of Gvuros, he says, Loi is dagvu kutshabrichu b'knesses Yisrael ela bezimna de ilin shis asrain mishikyo de nachla de loi pasak. The only time that the lower unity is going to take place, the unity of the midos, the unity of being a human being, the unity of drawing the light into Zer Anpin and Malchus, the unity of drawing the light into the diminished expression of the Torah and its limitations, is all dependent upon drawing it down from the Shakya Denachla, from that light that flows forth from Gan Eden at every moment, the fact that Bina is mispashet tamid into Zer Anpin, and that's where we draw the koyach to make the Yichudim from. Again, still highlighting the secret unity between Malchus and Zer Anpin, which are the lower levels of the Vav and the Hey, which are drawing their sustenance from Bina, which gives them the ability to be mashlim the shame. Now Rabbi Yehuda is going to give a different drasha that's still going to be speaking to that relationship. Until we come to Rabbi Shimon, we're not going to see the secret memory of the chachma that's coming down as well. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, Rabbi Yehuda says as follows: Achlu reim shisu v'shichur doidim. What does it mean that the reim come to eat and that the doidim come to drink? Ilin kol mare di yavava v'yayala the itbasmu kula v'isparchu kachada the ha mesudasa the malka mesanin kula ve'imasai achli kula b'shaisa the malka asi chadi v'ad malka is yachdi chadi l'matronusa b'kadmisa lebasa kula achid mechadim. Rabbi Yehuda says something totally different than what Rabbi Yitzchak said. Rabbi Yitzchak was including all of the midos in general, the general shape of Zer Anpin and Malchus together. But Rabbi Yehuda, from the perspective of Malchus, he's referring to the worlds of Yetzira and Asiya, the Vav and the Hey, the action and speech, where we find ourselves in this lower world as Yevava and Yelala. Yevava and Yelala are 2 different forms of moaning and groaning that come about from the concealment of this world. They represent the dinim of Olam HaYetzira, and they represent the dinim of Olam HaAsiya, as the Heligat Teferes Chanoichi says as follows. He says, after quoting Rabbi Yehuda, he says as follows. What Rabbi Yehuda is explaining is as follows. He came to explain that the Mari Yavava and the Mari Yalala hint to the Mayim Tachtoinim, that are boicha, this worldliness that is perpetually yearning to come back closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we find ourselves stuck in the Dir B'Tachtoinim, in the Mishkan of it all, in the Vav and the Hey, the Mishkan which is covered over with concealment and the skins of animals, v'chule. V'rom is the Olamos Yitzira and Asiya. It hints to the worlds of Yitzira and Asiya. Kedeisa Bibure Ezer Kadosh Le Arizal, as the Arizal explains as well, that Yavava represents the trua, the cry out that gets stuck within the self in the world of Yitzira, and the Yalala represents the brokenness that a person encounters in the world of Asiya, and all of them are going to be unified above. So Rabbi Yehuda is coming to add a certain element of not only is there going to be a tikkun by way of the separation drawing together with unity, but the suffering itself that comes about by way of the separation is also going to be shown to be rooted in the realm of Bina. This is still the unity that we're talking about, drawing everything back up to that secret place of the Suda that takes place with Shabricha V'Shchinte, where there's a yichud of Zer Anpin and Nukva that takes place al yidei the Hisoris of Bina, that's the rectification. Rabbi Abba, a third interpretation of this pasuk, still going to be in the territory of bringing Malchus back up to Bina, not yet reaching up into Chachma. Rabbi Abba Amar Achlu Reim Shistru V'Shechru Doidim Ilin Shist the Ka'amrin Ve'ilin Dechsiv Behu Havieni Hamelech Chadarav Shistru V'Shechru Mehahu Yayin Derave Lekula. Says Rabbi Abba, these six-sidedness of the Vak of Chesed Gvur Tvares Netzach Chodis Hod, the 6 days of the week, the engagement down here, the Dir B'Tachtoinim, the different animal skins that cover over the presence of godliness in this world, all of that goes back up to where? It goes back up into the place of Gan Eden, it goes back up into the place of the Chadarim of the Melech, it goes into that place of Bina, which is the secret of the Yayin Deravi Lekula. It's the wine that is going to satisfy all. It is the secret of the Yayin HaMeshumer Ba'anavav Me'sheshish Me'bereshis, which is still the source of Bina. Every one of the Manda Amrim so far have revealed to us this secret of the day of the Binyan HaMishkan is drawing down the lights of Bina into Zer Anpin and Malchus and showing the lower unifications down here, but it has not yet revealed to us the ability of the lower unification to bring about the higher unification in a way that even the higher unification is not capable of doing. Rabbi Eliezer Amar Kol Ilin Dilatata the kivan the inan shis is parchin kulan dilatatin misparchin. Rabbi Elazar adds a fourth opinion. So we have Rabbi Yitzchak who says something, we have Rabbi Yehuda who says something, we have Rabbi Abba says something, and we have Rabbi Elazar who said something. All four of them are giving different iterations, as the Kamarna points out and the Meforshei Zohar point out, on the value of what takes place when Zer Anpin and Malchus are unified and they draw down the light of Bina. But that's still operating simply within the place where we know that we can create unity down here. But we have not yet seen how the unity down here is ultimately there to go all the way back up and go all the way back up into Bina, past Bina, into Chachma, in the secret of the Chachma Ilah, in the secret of drawing down the highest lights of his Chadshos that come about as a result of the Or Ein Sof Mamish, that everything is contained within that Aleph Seira, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mislabish, and he folds all of the highest dargan into each and every darga. That Atik and Arich and Abba and Ima Ilayin are all folded into the lower dargan. And then when we find ourselves in the lower dargan, it's not just that we're accessing the lower dargan. By accessing the lower dargan, we're awakening the highest levels imaginable. That's the secret of what Rabbi Shimon is now going to come to say. Very much what we saw in the Ramchal yesterday. Rabbi Shimon Amar, now Rabbi Shimon answers. Rabbi Shimon is going to answer now, after all of the Manda Amrim. Amar Kula Shapir. Everything that you guys said is good. Everything is good. We can hint that Kula Shapir, Shapir is the world of Bina, it's the Shofar, the Alma Dechiru. Everything that the Talmidim just said is rooted in bringing Malchus back up to Bina. Aval Raza de Milo, but you want to know the secret of the matter? You want to know the secret of it, the secret which is the Chachma of it all, that hidden point that is not expressed yet? Achlu Reim Le'ela Shisru V'Shikru Doidim Dilatata. When we say that Achlu Reim, it means the higher levels are referred to as Reyin, and the lower levels are referred to as Doidim. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is explaining is that the Shem Havaya is Yud K and Vav K. The Yud K represents the Reim, which are the higher levels, not only Bina, but Bina with Chachma. And the Vav K represent the Doidim, which represent Zer Anpin and Malchus. Until now, we've only been looking at how Bina gives birth to the ability for Zer Anpin and Malchus to make unifications and then go back into Bina to taste of that wine that's hidden in the grape. But over here, Rabbi Shimon is saying something different. He says, all of you are saying good, but you've set it up to the level of the Bina that comes out from Chachma, but let's abstract it one level back to the level of Chachma to come to understand that we're talking about two types of unities here. There's the train Reyin Dilemas Parsha, and that's the Yud and the Hey, which represent Chachma and Bina. And like we said yesterday, Chachma and Bina on that level represent what? It's both Chachma and Bina within Chachma itself. On that place of unity where everything is revealed to be infinite, there's no separation between Abba and Ima Ilayin. There's no separation between the perpetual vitality that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is allowing to flow into reality. That doesn't change, it doesn't increase, it doesn't decrease, it is perpetually there. It is the light of infinitude. That is the train Reyin, the Lemus Parshan. That's Achlu Reim. And that place of the Yud and the K, there is a perpetual and fundamental unity, at which point you never have Bina without Chachma. Chachma is always revealed. Ayin is always revealed. That's the higher level of Achlu Reim Le'ela, but Shisru V'Shikru Doidim Latata, and the Doidim, which are going to be Zer Anpin and Nukva and Malchus, so those are going to be a very different type of relationship. Sometimes they're going to be Mitchaber, sometimes they're not going to be Mitchaber. This is the entire Tachlis of Bria. The Ari bases his entire system on this. Chachma and Bina are always unified. Yud and and Hey are always unified. The question is Vav and Hey. And yes, Avada, Vav and Hey are always unified on a concealed level, but on a revealed level, there's going to be a time where Vav and Hey are not in a relationship, and that Vav is going to have points of distance away from Hey. And there's going to be an Ibor, Yanik, and a Moichen, and a Nesira, and there's going to be a Zivug, and there's going to be a Zivug Rishon, and a Zivug Sheni. All of these different gradational shifting stages of relationality, which is about the lower levels where there's separation and connection, separation and connection. Our job is to draw down the connection in the place of Vav and Hey. Yud and K is always together. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has revealed that perpetual vitality of infinitude. It's up to us down here to be machaber together the separation of Vav and Hey. But when we unite Vav and Hey, what we're revealing is that the only possibility of uniting Vav and Hey down here comes about by way of Abba V'Ima Ilayin, which is ultimately through the light of Chachma Ilah, which is the light of Yesod Abba, which is the light of Moshe Rabbeinu. And so all unifications down here are ultimately there to reveal the unity of disparate parts, but then it gets schlepped back up into the womb of Bina to go even higher into the secret of the Yud, which is the secret of the Yud Chachma Keduma, which is Abi Yesod Brata. And now we're going to see how Rabbi Shimon is explaining this in a clarified way. Rabbi Shimon Amar Kula Shaper Al Val Raza Demila Achur Reim Laela. The Reim Chachma and Bina are above. Shasir v'Shechur Doidim Latata. But the Doidim, which is the drinking, the Vav Hey, is down below. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Man Inun Laelu Uman Ilun Tatata. All of the Talmidim are asking now. Rabbi Eliezer just represents all four of the opinions. Okay, Rashbi, you told us the new secret, but what's above and what's below? What's being revealed in this new formulation of the unity? Amar Le Yeyus Sheilta Da Eser Ilad Inin Ba'achdusa Bechedva. Rabbi Shimon says, it's very good that you asked this question. Why is he saying to Rabbi Eliezer that it's very good to ask this question? Because Rabbi Eliezer is operating in a place of Bina, and the job of Bina is always Sha'al Na Liyamim Rishonim. It's the secret of me. It's the secret of questioning. That's where the light of Bina is coming from. So Rabbi Shimon is reminding the Chavraya that don't think that you made a mistake in seeing that Malchus and Sar Anpin all the way back into Bina, but stopping before it goes back into Chachma. Because from your perspective of the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, so then Amarle Ya'is Sheiltada. It's a good question because you have not yet accessed that place of Chachma. But what is the place of Chachma? That's going to be the higher level. The Eser Ilah, the Inun Be'achdusa, Bechedvasa, the Loimis Parshin, the Almin, Ilin in Ikrin Reyin. Haveyu Dechsiv, the Nahar, Yoitse Mi Eden. Rabbi Shimon says, you want to understand the secret of Chachma. Chachma is that place above where everything is me'uchad and there's joy that comes from that place. Meaning to say, the Achdus is mitzad Chachma, the Chedva is mitzad the Bina, but nevertheless the Bina there is nichla within the Chachma because Abba V'Ima Ilayin are both contained within the upper Yud because they're both contained within Chachma. Dulay Misparsh and the Amen, and there's no separation in the secret of Havein B'Chachma B'Chacham B'Bina. Ilin in Elin Ikrin Reyan, that place of unity of Chachma where it's revealed that Nahar Yoitz Eden, that Bina, that we used to think was the source of the unity, is in truth only emergent from within Eden Stima, and that the Nahar is never separate from Eden Stima, and that Bina is always perpetually emergent from within Chachma. Rabbi Shimon is revealing how don't take Bina as the beginning. Look how Bina brings us back to the light of Chachma in the inside of it. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu needs in order to enter into the Mishkan. He needs to be able to behold that light of the Pele Elyon. That's mechaber between Chachma and Bina. So what does it mean, V'nahar yotzimi Eden, to represent the unity of Chachma and Bina in the secret of Havein b'Chachma? V'Eden v'hahu nahar lo misparshin la'almin. Eden, which is the secret of Chachma, and that river, which is Bina, that emerges from within Chachma, are never separate, meaning all Bina, which then goes forth to give Moichin to Zer Anpin and Malchus, down here, it's never separate from Chachma. And it's always going to be found with a Re'usa and an Achdus and a Chedvasa. Here we see something fundamentally remarkable, and I'm only seeing this now, and before when Rabbi Shimon answers Rabbi Eliezer, who's talking from a place of Bina, thinking that the highest that Malchus is going to Bina, he says to Rabbi Shimon, what's higher than Bina? Rabbi Shimon said that's a good question because from the perspective of Bina, it seems that Bina is the highest place, but Rabbi Shimon comes to reveal that in truth there's going to be a higher place, which is the place of Achdus b'Chedvasa, the place where Chachma and Bina are unified. but we understand, and what we've been saying is that when we schlep back up into Chachma with all of the separation, it's to go into the interiority of Chachma to reveal the light of Keser, which is the light of Re'usa. So first Rabbi Shimon answers Rabbi Eliezer, and he says the place of Chachma is Ba'achdusa B'chadvasa. But now, after explaining V'nar Yotzim Eden, and after explaining that Bina is really Nichlal in the Eden itself, so listen to what Rabbi Shimon adds. Bireusa be'achdusa bechadvasa. Now there's an added element of ratzon, which is keser, because when we reveal how bina is muchuber to chachma and emergent from chachma, suddenly that third element is revealed, which is the light of keser elyon alav nikra. Shasu v'shichru dodim. What shasu v'shichru dodim? Doidim ilun inun letata de ikron doidim lezimnin yedian v'ha ukmana. The doidim, which are going to be the lower levels of Zer Anpin and Nuk, which are drawing from Yisol Saba and Tvuna, which is Bina, but not the Iker Giloy of Chachma. So doidim are that stage of separation, the Vav and the K, which are not perpetually unified. There's a chibur that needs to be made there. That's the lower realms where there appears to be separation. That's the doidim. Tachazi, come and see. B'inon iloyin ksiv behu achila b'leishtia. Above, when it comes to the yichud of Chachma and Bina and the yichud of above, where there's no separation whatsoever, it refers to an act of eating without any drinking. My time. Why is it referred to as eating there? And the Tiferes HaChanoichi says eating is kfiyos. Eating is kfiyos. Eating is the knowledge of what I do when I do it. And therefore, in that place of Chachma and Bina, it's the stabilized expressions of things in my life. And eating is much more of a situated, known thing that I need to do to draw sustenance down to myself. Drinking is something entirely different. It's much more rooted in the shifting, changing colors of experience. So why is it that above we see eating without drinking? My time, Man de isle garne de chamra achila bayi ubegin de teman shaya chamra de menatra. So the reason that we're not saying that they're drinking above in Chachma and Bina is because over there it's yayin hamashumer ba'anaviv, that it's contained within the achila, that it's not lacking the drinking element. It's not lacking the noise and the shifting movement that comes about with the gvuros of wine in the place of unity. It's just that they're all contained there and they're not revealed. It's like the chamra tava hayoshev al dordayev. It's like that good wine, that source of the wine prior to its emergence. Ksiv behu achila ubeinen tatoi debainen shakyo dechsiv behu shtia. Over there above, where there's no need to draw out the wine because the wine is contained within the eating itself. Bina is nichla within chachma, and it gives us the access point to the Keser Elyon, to the Aleph itself. So there's no need to write about drinking. But here, down here in the territory of chachma, of Zer Anpin and Malchus, which need to draw down the light from Yesod the Bina in order to be mechuber, so they need to be involved in the act of drinking. The Hakol Netian Shikyu Ba'inin Menachla de Ma'amika Ba'alda Be'ilin Achilin U Be'ilin Shitin. Because down here, they're all dependent upon the Nachal HaElyon. All of the Giluyim of Zer Anpin and Malchus draw their sustenance in a revealed way from Bina, and therefore they have to drink from that wine. But Chachma, which contains Bina within itself, it doesn't need to reveal the wine. It has the wine contained within itself prior to revelation. It has that Chadvasa and the Re'usa contained within itself in the secret of Havein B'Chachma. And over there, it doesn't have to say drinking. Ilin Reyin ve'ilin Doidin. Above in Chachma and Bina that are Nichlal and Chachma, it's referred to as Reyim, as unseparable, and ilin doidim. But down here, in the place of revelation, it seems that they're doidim, that they're sometimes connected and sometimes not connected. Amar le Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer, who's still in that territory of Bina, who's learning about the secret of Chachma from his father, Rabbi Shimon, so he asks the question, It chazi daha doidim chavivusa inun, amai inun tatoi. But Rabbi Eliezer says, wait a second, Dad. So if I understand that the Re'im above are unified because it's Chachma and Bina and there's no separation and everything is revealed to be Einun Milad Mamish and it's a Hashra'ah that draws and schleps the light of Kesser down into it, so I understand that there's connectivity. But down here in the realm of separation, we see that there's a language of love. Dodim is a language of love. Dodi tzach ve'edom. Ani l'doidi v'doidi li. All of these languages of love, what are they doing down here in the realm of separation, in the realm of tatoi? So here's where the secret's going to be revealed, that it's specifically in the separation and the need to descend down into the separation of this worldliness, into the territory of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, It's specifically there that we're going to uncover the deepest pleasure and the deepest potency of Avodas Hashem, because it's from here, when we bring the concealment back up into revelation, we reveal how what we thought was the fullest extent of revelation is not even the beginning of revelation. And we come and we have the Ein Aruch Me'olam Hazeh, which is our engagement in this world, revealed to us that what we thought was the Ein Daima, what I thought was the fundamental grasp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is also just Ein Aruch in relationship to that which is going to be revealed in the future. And it's specifically the separation point down here that we remember the fact that even the unity that we feel above in Chachma and Bina is not the end all be all of unity, but that's just a unity that's meant to reveal to me that I have to still reveal more and more unity. Ad Ein Sof Mamish, with more and more Akava Abiyah, more and more levels growing and growing and growing. We schlep the concealment into the territory of unity to reveal retroactively that what we thought was the fullest expression of unity is simply unified in relationship to that which is below it, but in relationship to that which is about to be revealed and yet to be revealed and not yet revealed and not even known that it can be revealed. In the secret of Aliyos Ein Kates, even those highest levels of Chachma are going to be revealed to be null and void in relationship to that which is above it. Not null and void, it's going to maintain its value, but it's going to be revealed to have been incidental in relationship to the essential Chachma that's going to be revealed. And this is Ad Ein Sof Ein Tachlis. This is perpetually taking place. And therefore, even though there's separation down here in these realms, even though there's times where it's concealed, and it's the realm of separation, and it's the opposite of unity, nevertheless, there's still love that's going to be found there. Amar le Rabbi Shimon answers him, Inun de ta'evin da ledav v'le mishtachachin tadir ikrei doidim. V'inun de mishtachachin tadir v'le mitkasien v'le misparshin da min da ikru reim. V'al da ilun doidin v'ilun reim. Rabbi Shimon says, no, you have to understand, the separation that takes place on the level of doidim is not an actual separation. It's just a differentiated expression of love. That the love that's revealed in the fundamental unity of the reim is referred to as reim because those are never concealed from each other. That's a tainuk tamidi, that there's no concealment from one another. But the yearning desire that takes place within the separation between the doidim is also a form of love, and that's going to be the tnuas ha'eschatshus within the tainuk tamidi. And that's why both of them are referred to as love. It's specifically going to be down here in that momentary love and connection and disconnection, and the ruts and the shov and the above and below and running and returning, and the vak of it all, and the vav and the hey, and the maisa is the ikr, and the dir b'tachtonim, that we're going to be able to reveal the higher levels. Ilin b'reusa b'achdusa tadir v'ilin b'tiyufta lezimnin v'dahu shleimusa dekula begin de titbarcha knesses Israel l'kadein chedvasa b'kula almin. And this, Rabbi Shimon says, is the ikr giloy. When there's a reusa b'achdusa tadir above on the level of chachma and bina, and there's a level of tiufta lezimnin and a momentary desire down here on the levels of zer anpin and malchus, that's going to be the shlima dekula. That's going to reveal the full shlemus, which is our recognition that we schlep from above down below so that we can return back above and go even higher than we started with. And that's where the bracha of Knesset Yisrael is going to come from, and that's when the chedvasa and the schoik ha'elyon is going to come from, because there's nothing funnier than going down into the concealment of separation of the vav hey of it all and uncovering the fact that not only is it also unified, but its unity reveals an even higher unity that what could have possibly been revealed had we not descended into concealment. And then the Zohar Kadosh goes further and further describing on the next page just how HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Knesset Yisrael, and because Knesset Yisrael represent the ability to unify Vav and Hey down here together, how that's specifically what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our avodah down here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our korban. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be makriv ourselves only to the Shem Havaya. It's all about revealing the deepest unity imaginable. How down here HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created vessels and kelim through which we access HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the Torah and the mitzvos and the Shem Havaya, and never to think that we're only accessing the Shem Havaya as something that is emergent from Bina into Zer Anpin, but rather to understand the secret that when I gain access to the Razid Meimnusa that's hidden within the Vav Hey of it all, within this worldly experience, and I can bring a korban and I can be mitchaber, all of the dargan back up to the original source from whence they came, which is the inner interiority of Chachma, which is the inner interiority of Atik, which is the secret of Aniva Ayin Bavasachas, which is the secret of the Alufo Shel Oilam that's hidden within each and every Tnua, which is the secret tiny Aleph, which is the Sefer HaRefuos, which is the Sharnun that the Kamarna says can be mamtik everything by way of Emunah. when we go back to that place, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. It's only the Shem Havaya. And the Ruach Nishbara and the brokenness that we experience, as the Zohar HaKadosh is going to continue to say, that we experience as being part and parcel of the territory of the Vav Hey, that's part of the process of drawing out the deepest light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we have to tolerate the process down here. We have to be soivel the process of being mechaber, the Vav and the Hey, of going down into the Iker and going down into the Mice and going down into the concealment of it all and the boredom of it all and the changes of it all, ultimately with the deep confidence that we're creating the unification to reveal the fundamental unity that is perpetually being revealed from on high, on the highest levels, that Or Ein Sof Mamish is being miskala over and over and over and over through the highest levels of Atik and Arich and Abba V'imi Eloin and Yisrael Saba and Tvuna into the Rosh of Zer Anpin, which we're grasping, and then Zer Anpin is Metchaber with Malchus, and we engage with a Birur on the level of Malchus, and then Malchus goes all the way back up in the secret of Evan Masu Abanim, Haisel Rosh Pina, which is that Aleph Zeira, that tiny Aleph, and it goes all the way back up, not only to Bina, not only to Chachma, not only to Arich, and not only to Atik, but not even to Reish Lo Osiyad. It goes higher than Reish Lo Osiyad. It goes all the way up to the Shorosh of Amuna, and Be'ezras Hashem we can be Zocheh to be a school Tzedek b'mhera b'yameinu mamish amen.